Hey, how's this for perspective? In Philippians chapter 1, still, Paul is saying, I want you to know that what has happened to me has really served to advance the gospel. What has happened to me, or what happened to him, was that he got thrown in jail. He was in a hole in the ground, in chains, locked up by the Romans. And he says, what's happened to me has really been to advance the gospel. That's perspective. Sometimes we go through things and we're like, why is this happening to me? I just want out. And yet God is saying, no, I need you here because it's advancing the gospel. We advance the gospel, the good news of Jesus, when we live with him in mind. In fact, it's not I that live, but Christ in me. Paul talks about this as well. And he says, my imprisonment is for Christ. Get that. My imprisonment is for Christ. Lockdown is for Christ. This whole coronavirus thing, in the end, is for Christ. It's for his glory. If we can catch this, it's like, whoa. He's talking about in his imprisonment that it's given people more boldness to speak the gospel, because if Paul can do this, I can do this. And they speak without fear. So he's saying, indeed, preach Christ, preach Christ. And he goes on, he goes, yes, and this I will rejoice, for I know that through your prayers and by the help of the Spirit of Jesus, this is going to turn out for my deliverance. Oh, he's going, in my expectation, I'll not be ashamed. I'll be full of courage. Courage now, as always. Christ will be honored in my body, whether by life or by death. So no matter what, I'm living for Christ, for his glory. And he says this famous verse, for to me to live is Christ and to die is gain. This morning I was in a men's group on Zoom with a number of guys. I lost count at 25, I think. But one of the guys texted me and said, I died of the regular flu some 13 years ago. He died. And when he died, he appeared before God. This is his story. He appeared before God. And God asked him a question. And it was to do with him coming back to earth. He wanted to go back to his wife and family. And God said, why? And he said, I don't want my son to grow up fatherless. And it was like the Lord said to him, good answer. Boom, he comes back to life with his wife, who was screaming over him at the time on the table. She was screaming over him scriptures and praying to God to bring him back. And 13 years ago, he said that experience did something to him. It took away from him all fear of death. And he texted me that very verse. He said, to live is Christ. To die is gain. Paul talks about being caught between the two, to live here or to be with God, which is far, far better. And, we're all kind of caught in that time between times. We're living here in the valley of the shadow of death. We're here, but man, we don't fear. We should be encouraged to live for Christ. Let him pray the prayer of, not I that live, Christ, but you in me, allowing him to live through you, to touch people, to encourage people, to maybe just for a brief second cause them to focus on God. How can you encourage somebody today? To live is Christ. And if it kills us, we're with Christ. So what's the worst that can happen? We die and we go to heaven. We die and we're with him. Wow. To live, to be here is Christ. To die is far better. To die, it's gain.